Welcome to World History 1. My name is Miss Lund, and I'm looking forward to getting to know you all this semester as we work together to build our reasoning and inquiry skills through the study of history. To get us started, I wanted to take this opportunity to introduce myself and tell you a little bit about this course so you know what to expect as we go along throughout the semester to the end of the school year. The best way to contact me is by email, and my email address is posted for you all here, as well as in Google Classroom under the heading, How to Contact Your Teacher. I don't like posting my cell phone number because I like to know who's calling or texting me. I'm sure if we're being honest, you probably ignore texts and calls from numbers you don't recognize. But if texting is better for you, simply shoot me an email with your number and I'll be happy to get in contact with you via text. Scheduled tutoring for this course takes place every Tuesday and Thursday from 2:30 to 4. However, as you see on your screen, I do ask that scholars email me to let me know they plan to sign on and what time they'll be there. I don't like sitting on Zoom for 2 hours unless you're there with me. Seems fair, right? If this time doesn't work, as I know there are other classes whose tutoring you may need to attend at the same time, I'm also happy to meet with scholars on self-paced days during our scheduled class block. For example, if we have an upcoming quiz or test Friday and you want to review with me one-to-one, send me an email and we can meet on Zoom during the class block Thursday at 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. depending on which block you're in. Many scholars in my first semester classes took advantage of this and found it helpful. This course, World History 1, explores our shared human history from our ancient beginnings through about the 1600s. We'll talk more tomorrow about what that means, what you can expect of your history courses throughout high school, and how we're going to tackle it all in just half a school year. The course syllabus has been emailed to you and can always be found in the Google Classroom under the heading School and Course Policies. Rather than go through it line by line, I want to quickly highlight some of the key course policies and expectations that drive our course. Number 1, communicate, communicate, communicate. I'm sure you've heard this in all your other classes and from Principal Booth in the morning announcements, but seriously, in this virtual space, it is so much harder for your teachers to understand what help you need and what's stopping you from achieving success. I will hold you to your greatness, which means sometimes I will be strict and will not make exceptions. But if you communicate proactively, that means reaching out to me before deadlines pass or before class starts to let me know something isn't working or you need a little extra time on an assignment. I will absolutely reward your self-advocacy with some leniency. On the other hand, as you see here on your screen, no communication from you plus no work turned in will get you a 0 in the gradebook. Be forewarned, I open and look at every single assignment you turn in. I read your Edpuzzle and Nearpod responses. I check that your matching worksheets are completed and correct. Turning in a blank worksheet is a waste of your time and mine, and it's still a 0. Don't play. Next, make sure you're checking PowerSchool for your grades. If you need help viewing individual assignment grades in PowerSchool, just let me know and I can show you how to toggle to that view. Google Classroom will be the first place you look every morning to see what assignments are due for the day. It's where you'll access all the course materials, and it's where you'll submit work for grading. Written assignments will always receive feedback and comments in Google Classroom, but most assignments will be graded exclusively in PowerSchool. Finally, please take note that this course requires you to have a dedicated class notebook. Next Friday, we will have a notebook check, which means you will need to hold up your physical notebook on screen and show that you've gotten one. Moving forward, notebook checks will involve you submitting a photo of the notes you've taken. So make sure you're not only got a notebook handy next Friday, but that you're actually planning to use it for World History notes. Early next week, we'll have a lesson about effective note-taking strategies so you know what to write down and what to do with your notes after you've taken them. I'd also like you to have handy some index cards, since each unit will start with a new set of vocabulary terms that you'll be responsible for memorizing. Did you know that over 50% of your academic vocabulary comes from social studies classes? In 2020, research also found that social studies classes are the only ones that effectively improve reading comprehension skills, and these vocabulary sets are designed in a way that if you memorize these terms, all the rest of the content we study will make a lot more sense to you. I also try to pick terms that will be used again and again throughout all your high school history courses and are vital to viewing news and social media with a critical eye. So rest assured, this is not information that you'll never use again in your life. I'm very intentional about making sure, as best I can, that what I teach you is purposeful beyond this course. If you need help acquiring either a notebook or index cards, please email me or have your caregivers email me to coordinate a pickup of materials at the school. Wednesday's self-paced lesson will involve guided practice using flashcards effectively to memorize vocabulary terms, so you'll know exactly what to do with the Unit 1 terms I've given you today. Stay tuned. Now let's talk about what you can expect on self-paced days, which will be Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays each week. Here are our virtual learning norms for self-paced days, and they're a little different from the norms we will follow in live classes. Number 1, be a learner, not a finisher. If you rush through the work doing the bare minimum just to be able to click submit, not only will your grade reflect this meager effort, you won't get as much as you were supposed to out of the lesson, and then when it comes time to test your knowledge, you won't have that learning to pull from. Number 2, contribute meaningfully to discussion posts. On Mondays and Thursdays, your attendance, which is a daily civil discourse grade for live and self-paced, will be tracked by commenting on a discussion thread posted in the classroom stream. These are meant to get you thinking about the bigger questions at play in our unit of study, so it's important that you're thoughtful in your comments. Do not just type present or here. It will not count, and it will require you to go back and respond before marking you present. Number 3, hold yourself to your greatness and remain invested in your own education. I know that virtual learning is really, really hard for many of you. I know that you may be discouraged and start to be giving up on yourself after the first half of the year. Don't give in. Wouldn't you rather be able to say, when others were giving up and choosing failure, you kept pushing, and despite a pandemic succeeded? I know you would. Your teachers are here to help, so use us. If you're struggling, you're not alone, and you don't have to figure it out all on your own. Just remember, we can only help if you reach out and let us know. Here's a sample of what your Google Classroom classwork tab looks like. The banner at the top of the screen tells you what time your class meets and which days are live versus self-paced. When you click into the classwork tab, the first header will always be the Zoom links, and the second will always be course policies. That means you need to scroll past Zoom links and course policies to heading number 3, which is where you'll find the work due today. Notice that these headings include the date, followed by whether it is a live or self-paced lesson, and then the unit we're currently studying. This will be very helpful when you need to go back and review for a test, or if you're absent and need to make up missed work. The assignment will also always include the date it is due right in the title, so you can easily keep track when you look at your to-dos. Here's a sample of what the attendance discussion posts look like on self-paced days. If you haven't already, make sure you go back and contribute to the discussion posted for today's self-paced lesson. Notice that every stream post has the date and tells you exactly what you should include in your comment. I'll often include an example as well. As a reminder, it will not count if you simply type present. The only exception is half-day Wednesdays, and the instructions on Wednesday's post will remind you that it is okay just on those half days to type present, since attendance has to be submitted earlier on those days. Now let's talk about what you can expect during live Zoom classes, which will be Tuesdays and Fridays each week. Here are our virtual learning norms for live Zoom classes. Number 1, be present and engage in ways that work for your learning environment. Here's what I mean by that. As your teacher, I recognize that online learning presents challenges that wouldn't exist in the normal classroom setting. I understand that many of you may be new to tech prep and you are uncomfortable showing your face or your homes to your classmates. I understand that because we do not all have privacy during virtual learning, you may also be uncomfortable unmuting based on what's happening in your background. What's important to me is not how you engage, but that you engage in class activities and discussions, because that's how you're going to learn, and that's how I'm going to know whether you're picking up what I'm putting down. If you don't want to unmute, you can respond to questions using the chat. And if you're still self-conscious about what your classmates might say, you can send a private chat to me and I'll read it out saying, one of your classmates shared that, leaving your name out of it. With so many different ways to participate, there won't be any excuses for scholars who choose not to engage in class activities. Number 2, you're expected to have your class notebook, as well as a few pencils or pens, open and ready during all live classes. This is truly for your benefit. If you look up advice from scholars who were already going to online high school before the pandemic hit, one of the biggest pieces of advice they have for you all is to make sure you still keep a hard copy notebook, because you have greater control over your notes and can reorganize them in a way that makes the most sense to your brain. Finally, let's talk briefly about what it means to help create a brave space. Like I said, there are a lot of reasons that Zoom classes might make scholars feel uncomfortable and self-conscious. And yet, some of the best parts of class are discussion and debates. But those can only happen if people are willing to share out and unmute, even show their face on camera from time to time. Anytime you do come on camera, you create space for someone else to step up and do the same. The more you come off mute and share out, you're inviting others to follow your lead. Did a classmate share an idea on the collaboration board that you really liked? Heart it, give it a like. Give shout outs in the chat or by coming off mute. The more we work together to lift each other up and draw out what's best in each other, the better time we're going to have in this space. It truly will be what we all make it together. Each time you sign into Zoom class, you will see this landing page. Make sure you read the daily objective to get a sense of what we're trying to accomplish during today's lesson, and take note of any reminders and announcements so you don't miss important information. The Zoom meeting will begin at the top of each hour, so if your class starts at 9:10 a.m., you'll be able to join beginning at 9 o'clock. Please do your best to be in class on time, as we'll get started right away, and if you're late, send a chat to a classmate to try and catch up. On live days, you'll take attendance by entering your first and last name in the chat. This is really important, especially when I'm sharing my screen, since I log attendance after class ends. I may not always remember who I admitted to class an hour earlier when I go into PowerSchool. To make sure you're counted present and earn your civil discourse grade for the class participation, don't forget to tackle this once you enter the Zoom. Before we close out for today, I want to share with you what your peers in my first semester class had to say when I asked them, what advice would you give to a student taking this course to help them be successful from day one? Here's the advice your first semester peers shared. I wish I took more notes. Make sure you keep notes and study them. Study your vocabulary and find different ways to study that's fun. Do all your work. Do all the work, study, and you'll do great. Make sure you talk, because sometimes I knew the answer and didn't talk. It's okay to be wrong. When the work seems like a lot, just know that it all helps for the quizzes and final exams. Ask questions. Do not procrastinate. It may seem boring, but just listen. Everything you're being told is very helpful towards the end. Take notes in class and when you're doing the work, because your notes can help you answer the questions later. It's an easy course. You'll do well if you just study and go to tutoring. A bunch of students said study your vocabulary, ask questions, and ask for help. I can tell you from comparing students' advice with how well they did throughout the course, the students telling you to ask questions and to keep up with your work and your notes are the students who had A's all semester. Some of them started off the first couple weeks with a D or an F, but once they started emailing me asking for help and asking questions about the assignment so they could get it done right, they quickly jumped all the way back up to an A. That leads nicely to the last piece of advice that one student shared, which is this: try hard and don't quit on yourself. All right, folks, that's it for today. Please make sure you get a dedicated class notebook ASAP, but definitely no later than next Friday's notebook check, which will count as a quiz. While you're at it, grab a few packages of index cards and be sure to let me know if you need help getting these materials for class. If you've completed this Ed puzzle and posted a comment on today's discussion thread, you're all set. I look forward to seeing you during our live class tomorrow. Remember, the Zoom link can always be found at the top of Classwork tab in Google Classroom, and on live days, it will be posted for you in the Google Classroom stream as well. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow.